have been diagnosed with more than one disorder. However, I chose which label, and it is a label, which label worked for me. And at the time, it was borderline personality disorder. I saw myself in a lot of the traits, and that was the therapy that I was most interested in getting. Although I have to say, at this point in my life, labels don't really work for me. The more and more I think about it, the more I realize we're all people dealing with mental health challenges and different stress. And this is, you know, mental health is a continuum, and all of the struggles that we deal with, whether it's perhaps a parent's death or a divorce or just extreme sadness, these are all emotions that everybody goes through. So to label them doesn't always work. So now I just think of myself as someone who's a little more sensitive, who may be a little more emotional, I like sensitive, a little more sensitive to the things that go on around them, and I'm okay with that. And I listen to my body, and I listen to my mind, and I'm mindful of those things, and I find out, I decide what I need in those moments, and I deal with it. You know, the label, you know what they say, labels are for jars, not people, and I'm a big believer in that. First, I think it's important to reflect and think, you know, it's not how does it feel for a borderline person or a person with borderline or emotion dysregulation. How does it feel for them to be misunderstood? Because we're all misunderstood at some point in our lives. And nobody likes to think that their intentions have gone unheard, or that their intentions are not coming across. And again, because I think of myself who is someone who is more sensitive, you know, often it can be heart-wrenching because, you know, you want to do your best for other people. You want people to, you just want the best for people. And so if that's not coming across, it can be both heart-wrenching and very frustrating. And I think that's something a lot of people could struggle with. I mean, that's a fantastic feeling, to be understood, to be listened to be connected. I mean, that's what life is about. And when we have those moments with people, you know, they're to be treasured. Yeah, and so it just feels good. I do feel that people, I feel most of the time that people do get me. I think sometimes I'm considered quirky or, you know, a little out there, but I'm surrounded. I've learned to surround myself with people who will get me and who won't question, you know, oh my gosh, what is she doing? What is she thinking? No, because why would I want those kinds of people in my life, right? That's part of learning yourself and learning what keeps you well. And so I'm really blessed now that those are the people I keep near me. Definitely one of the most important things was when I did start my treatment. No, it was not the treatment that was necessarily the most successful, but meeting other people who identified as going through the same things that I did, and having this peer group. I now work as a peer support worker, but having this peer group of people who I didn't have to justify myself to. I didn't have to explain where these thoughts and emotions were coming from. If they saw cuts on me, they didn't care, they didn't look, they weren't, you know, they had their own stuff going on. and I could just go, and we went out for Chinese food, and we would just, blather on and on and on. And sometimes we did talk about the skills we learned that day in DBT, and sometimes we talked about other things. Just being with other people who got it was really important. But then, as I continued my own journey, sounds like I'm going on a trip, but my own journey, to continue that momentum, I had to find meaning and purpose for my life, because I didn't have any. My meaning and purpose had kind of dissipated by that point. And that's when I decided that I would become a peer support worker and dedicate myself to mental health and start groups for other people who were going through these other things. And when I got my job at CMHA and started to learn about the complex world of mental health challenges in general. And then I realized that there was a huge community out there of people going through stuff, and a lot of stuff that we all went through. And I mean, that's why I get up every day and go to work. And, I'm one of the few people who can say, I love my job. I love my job. I love the people I meet. And I love being able to connect with them. And I don't know, that gets me through. That gets me, when we share stories, when we share skills, I don't know, just knowing I'm not alone makes me go forward and makes me want to keep myself healthy, in the way that I want to keep healthy. Because that's what recovery is, right? It's not getting better. I don't know what that means. It just means having a life that you define as thriving. And that can be anything. That can be anything for anybody. And I gotta tell you, getting a new husband, that helped as well. Because he's a good guy. So yeah. I think a lot of people think that mindfulness is kind of akin to meditation, and you need to, sit on a pillow and very formally, and that's the great thing about mindfulness, is you can use it anywhere, anytime, doing anything. So what it's allowed me to do is to almost take like a little mini mental break. If I feel kind of a strong emotion coming on, if I feel some like a negative thought starting to loop, if I stop and just be now in the present, it gives me the space to not, for example, go hurt myself. It gives me the space to come down, relax, bring my emotions back to a place where they're a little bit more manageable, so I can then use the more logical side of my brain, or what they call logic side of the brain, to make decisions about how I want to go forward with this, instead of like some sort of instant reaction where, all of a sudden all hell breaks loose. So, yeah. When I received this diagnosis, I can remember doing a lot of research on it. What is this? What does it mean? And the things that I got back were that people with borderline personality disorder were manipulative. They were unlovable. They were never capable of loving another human being. And it made me stop and question everything about who I was, everything my life had been up until that point. I thought maybe I was kidding myself. Maybe I hadn't loved people. Maybe I didn't even love my own family, and that was somehow that my life had been kind of a lie up until that point. And then the stigma, the self-stigma set in. I internalized all of that, and the self-hatred and worthlessness that you already feel, which is one of the criteria of having it, just incredibly intensifies. And it's like this vortex of self-hatred. And you're reading this material over and over again, and You're seeing these portrayals in the media of who these borderline women are, these man-eaters, and I just didn't know who I was anymore. It was like Sam was gone. So the self-stigma, I think with any kind of mental illness is huge, but with borderline, I've had doctors refuse to treat me. It was huge. And that's another barrier. It's another obstacle that you have to stop and jump over. And there's no therapy for that. These are things you have to learn how to do yourself. And they're lies. They're lies. They're just outright lies. I mean, I got married 2 months ago. I've been in a healthy relationship for 4 years. I know people with children. Like, these are all possibilities. These are all really hopeful things. So just, don't believe the hype.